Strength test. I'd say that'll do. Well, gents, you have been waiting, you've been hounding, you've been pounding me. So today, Mighty Mouse is back into the Hillbilly Garage. We've got a little bit of work to do to this guy. If you remember the last time I had this guy out trail riding, she was overheating. And the reason for that, well, let me just get this rear rack and fenders off and I'll show you. So as you guys know, if you've been keeping up with the build videos, we have our exhaust running right here, and our intake comes in right here and kind of falls along that, and is right here, handy our muffler. So basically, I think what's going on is because our intake is so close to our exhaust, we're just superheating the air. So to fix that, and what I've been waiting for, we are going to add an intercooler to this system. So I got this kind of a longer, skinnier intercooler to run, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount her about right here in between the seats. I think that'll work good. We'll be able to run our plumbing up through our rack, and I can attach a simple piece of angle iron up here to bolt this to. Maybe a couple little rubber insulators here on the backside to keep from rubbing through. And I think that'll work dandifuly. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and take this intake off. We'll take some of this off for time being, and we will work on getting a bar mounted to mount this. I think I'm going to go ahead and take my fenders off my rack so I can put my rack back in place without having the fenders in the way. So I still have that to gauge where I need to be for stuff. This about right there, and that should work almost perfectly, and come up through, down the other side and back in. That should get me pretty much completely away from that exhaust after the turbo anyway. So I guess what I should do next is get a piece of angle iron and get her welded fast to my frame. Little tack tack. Well, alright guys, we've got our intercooler all mounted here, and we even got the turbo side plumbed in. So that went very, very well. Now I will have to go, this turbo has these extra bungs here that I'll have to weld on the bottom here somewhere. Then I'll probably attach another bar here that I can bolt these two wherever they line up to give some support on the bottom. So now we need to work on getting our intake side plumbed in. I have to find a new place for my blow-off valve, which I may go ahead and put it right directly off that intercooler. It's probably the best place for it. And I think another thing I'm going to do, once we have all this mocked up ready to go, is I am going to take the old cutoff wheel and cut this section of the rack out. Because we don't actually need it, and that'll allow me to take the rack on and off without having to undo everything. So I think I will go ahead and we'll just cut that off. Maybe I'll cap the ends, hit her with some spray paint. I'll have to paint all this up here too. And finish welding this once everything's done with mock-up. But I think that'll just make it a lot easier. If I got to service something, I can take the rack off without having to completely undo the intercooler. Well, I must say that could not have worked better than it did. It was super simple. Just had to run her down into our blow-off valve right there, and then pretty much 90 it. Elbow, this is the piece we used the way it was before, and it worked perfect. Now I do have my blow-off valve pointed up. I will be changing that to point it down, but I have it up so I can keep an eye on it, make sure we're opening and closing like we should. So once I'm sure of that, then she'll get flipped and pointed down so it's not getting a bunch of mud and dirt in it. And like I said, when all is said and done, my blow-off valve, I can thread a fitting in here and actually snorkel this up too if I want to, which is one of the reasons why I went with this kind. But for testing, we're not really too worried about that at this point. So all I have left to do for mock-up is get a piece of flat stock to weld in here and then weld the bungs on there. I'll probably actually go ahead and have the bungs welded on first, and then I'll put the piece of flat stock in here wherever it goes. I do have a little bit of play here, so it doesn't have to be, those don't have to be on there perfect. So I get a rough idea where I want them, mark them on there, and then tear this stuff back off, weld this back up permanently, hit her with a coat of paint, cut my rack, and then we'll be ready to reassemble and to do some more testing. And of course, before all is said and done, I got the Mudbuster fender flares back there to go on this guy too. So we might as well go ahead and throw them on there before we go and do some more test runs with the intercooler. Made a nice little grab bar. Huh. We may have to do something with that. Alright, so I'm working on my bottom mount now. I got these little bungs tacked on here. And let me tell you, it's not quite as easy to weld aluminum, so I'm trying not to focus too much on my little welds I did with the aluminum. For one, I didn't have the right gas, so I used what I had. It was a 75 argon, 25 carbon, which causes more oxidation and more bubbling. So it kind of globbed on there, but the fact is, they're attached, it's holding strong. So I'm working on the bottom mount. I got my bar across here. I actually notched this instead of just drilled a hole, so there's some adjustment to this. Plus, I can start the screws, set the intercooler in this bar once it's welded fast to help hold it while I screw it up here. So now I'm just figuring where I need to do. I'm going to cut this angle iron here and here, grind the paint down, tack that on as well. Oh yeah, that's dry enough for me. Oop, that's a little sticky, but let's get this intercooler back on. Where did I put it? There it is. Oh boy, got everything plugged back in. Got the intake back on and run back down. Our intercooler is all tied in and good and secure. I probably will still end up having to put some kind of brace on this guy. But I need to make a little heat shield to cover a lot of this anyway. But for now, I think we're ready to go ahead and give this guy a test fire. So, here we go. Oil pump's priming. She is running. Idling nice and smooth, which is a good sign. Boost gauge is still building. Not quite as quick as it did without the intercooler, but now we've got to push that air a lot farther. It's going to take a touch more boost from the turbo to get as much boost to the engine, because we just got simply more volume of air to push now with that extra tubing. Plus, it takes a while for that turbo to get warmed up too, to where it actually spins nice and free. So, I'm going to turn this guy off before I asphyxiate myself. And we are just about ready to take this guy out once again for another round of testing. Before we do that though, on the next video, I'm gonna go ahead and install the Mud Buster fender extenders so we can have a little added protection here on this guy as we run it. And then we can see how she does with the intercooler under slow trail riding. Again, it works fine when I was on it all the time and going fast, but that slow crawling through the woods when I'm not moving very fast is when I was superheating my air. But I think this intercooler is definitely a wise decision regardless, to help keep the air cool. And we can always come and mount a fan on this if need be for additional cooling. So see guys, I did not forget about Mighty Mouse even with the 2 new machines. We're still kicking away on this guy. And I still have lots of content yet to put out with this guy as well, especially once this turbo is all finished up. And then we'll be able to have some meet and greet rides where I can take this guy, show it off, and get to ride with you. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one with Mighty Mouse. So until then, keep on riding.